the necessity of alternating work and relaxation, with the insight often coming at the moment of the break between the two, or at least within the break. This last point is particularly interesting. It is probably something everyone has learned. Professors will lecture with more inspiration if they occasionally alternate the classroom with the beach. Authors will write better when, as Macaulay used to do, they write for 2 hours, then pitch quotes, and then go back to their writing. But certainly more than the mere mechanical alteration is involved. I propose that in our day, this alteration of the marketplace and mountain requires the capacity for the constructive use of solitude. It requires that we be able to retire from a world that is too much with us, that we be able to be quiet, that we let the solitude work for us and in us. It is a characteristic of our time that many people are afraid of solitude. To be alone is a sign one is a social failure, for no one would be alone if he or she could help it. It often occurs to me that people living in our modern, hectic civilization, amid the constant din of radio and TV, subjecting themselves to every kind of stimulation, whether of the passive sort of TV or the more active sort of conversation, work, and activity, that people with such constant preoccupations find it exceedingly difficult to let insights from unconscious depths break through. Of course, when an individual is afraid of the irrational, that is, of the unconscious dimensions of experience, he tries to keep busiest, tries to keep most noise going on about him. The avoidance of the anxiety of solitude by constant agitated diversion is what Kierkegaard, in a nice simile, likened to the settlers in the early days of America who used to beat on pots and pans at night to make enough din to keep the wolves away. Obviously, if we are to experience insights from our unconscious, we need to be able to give ourselves to solitude. Poincaré finally asks, what determines why a given idea comes through from the unconscious? Why this particular insight and not one of a dozen others? Is it because a particular insight is the answer which is empirically most accurate? No, he answers. Is it because it is the insight which will pragmatically work best? Again, no. What Poincaré proposes as the selective factor resulting in this given insight seems to me to be, in some ways, the most important and gripping point in his whole analysis. He writes, the useful combinations that come through from the unconscious are precisely the most beautiful. I mean those best able to charm this special sensibility that all mathematicians know, but of which the profane are so ignorant as often to be tempted to smile at. Among the great numbers of combinations blindly formed by the subliminal self, almost all are without interest and without utility. But just for that reason, they are also without effect upon the aesthetic sensibility. Consciousness will never know them. Only certain ones are harmonious, and consequently at once useful and beautiful.